Morning. My name is Mark Gardner, and I'd like to start by asking you just to close your eyes. And with your eyes closed, I'd like for you to think of probably recent storms that you've experienced. I want you to visualize the sounds, the lightning flashing, the thunder rolling, and then all of a sudden, your lights go out. It's eerie, isn't it? Now imagine for a second that there's sunshine outside, and all of a sudden, the power goes off. It's not from rain, it's not from thunder. It's because the electric company turned your power off. They turned the power off because of non-payment. Thank you. Today, I will be presenting my research on the relationship between financial stress and depression in women. I'll be discussing how financial comfort and the burden of support and dependence can influence mental health outcomes. To begin, let's take a closer look at the background of this topic. Financial stress is a significant factor that affects mental health, and this is especially true for women. Now let's move on to the literature review. Previous research has shown a strong connection between financial struggles and depression. It was Ryu and Fan, 2023. It highlighted the perceptions of financial well-being having a bigger impact on mental health than actual income levels. I want to stop right there and just kind of mention that one more time. If a person feels like they should be better off financially, that can have a bigger impact, bigger than even having food in the refrigerator, lights on. So our second and third one is by Kwan et al. 2022 and Wiseman et al. 2020. They pointed out that financial insecurity often leads to higher emotional distress. So that's just on the opposite side of it, is if they have insecurities, they can't keep their water going, they can't keep their electric on, that has a higher effect on their mental health. And so those are three of them that I used for my paper and created my hypothesis from them. Based on these previous studies, I developed two hypotheses. My first hypothesis is I wanted to see if the women that came from lower financial comfort, if they reported higher depression scores than women that came from being more financially secured. For my second hypothesis, women who financially support more dependents will experience greater depression than those who do not have financial dependence. And so I wanted to see if your depression levels went higher if you had more dependents depending on you. In my study, I used archived data collected from 1,112 women across the United States through Amazon MTurk. Coming in at almost 76% is white or Caucasian, followed up by African American or Black is almost 10%. Hispanics coming in at third with 6%. We have ones that don't answer, and then we have Asian or other or mixed for the last 7.5%. I focused on three main features: financial comfort, the number of dependents supported, and depression levels. Beck Depression Inventory, also known as the BDI, was developed by Aaron T. Beck. It is a self-reported questionnaire designed to capture emotional, behavioral, and psychological symptoms associated with depression. 21 questions, scaled from 0 to 3, giving you an overall depression level. Let's have a breakdown of our data. Looking from 1 to 10 comes in about almost 55%. From 11 to 16, we're looking at 13.1%. From 17 to 20, we're looking at 8.5%. And from 21 to 30, we're looking at 11%. I then analyzed the data using independent sample t-test to compare depression scores between different levels of financial comfort, number of dependents supported. So for financial comfort, if a person made less than $40,000, I put them in group one. If they made more than $40,000, I put them in group two. And we compared both of them to see who had the higher scores. The other part was the number of family members or dependents. If a person had 0 to 3 dependents that depended on them, they were in group one. And 3 and above, I put them in group two. Let's take a look at the results. For hypothesis number one, the data supported my prediction. Women with low financial comfort will report higher depression scores than those with more financial comfort. This is backed up by data. The depression scores, the mean score for low comfort was 13.51, while women with high comfort reported an 11. Now for hypothesis number two, these results were unexpected to me. So contrary to my hypothesis, women who supported fewer dependents reported higher depression scores. What do these findings mean? First, the relationship between financial comfort and depression was supported, reinforcing the idea that financial insecurity is a significant predictor of emotional distress. If you don't have a whole lot of money or you can't pay your bills, you're going to have more emotional distress. And that aligned with the previous research. However, the relationship between financial burden and depression was more complex than expected. Women who supported fewer dependents reported higher depression levels. This suggests that other factors such as emotional resilience or social support systems, these may buffer against negative effects of financial stress. While the findings are insightful, there are several limitations to consider. First, the use of self-report data introduces potential bias, as participants might not fully disclose their financial or emotional states. Second, the study's cross-sectional design limits the ability to establish causal relationship. We're observing a snapshot of the data at one point in time, but we can't say whether financial stress causes depression or if pre-existing depression affects one's perception of financial stress. Building on these limitations, several avenues for future research are suggested. First, conducting a longitudinal study which would establish causal relationships between financial comfort and depression. Second, future studies could use more detailed measures of financial burden, such as the type of dependence or the level of support they require. Additionally, exploring the role of emotional resilience and social support in buffering financial stress would provide deeper insight into the complex relationship between financial strain and mental health. In conclusion, this study found that financial comfort is a strong predictor of depression in women. However, the relationship between financial burden and depression is more complex, as women with more dependents did not report higher depression levels. These findings suggest that financial wellness and social support systems play critical roles in women's mental health. Future research should continue to explore how coping mechanisms and social support mitigate the effects of financial stress. So what was the purpose of this study for me, and where do I see myself going from here? Now, I believe that most students get into psychology because they want to make a difference in the world. I got into psychology because I wanted to make a difference in a child's world, in a high schooler's world. And I realized that in order to do that, you have to create a better environment. You have to plant the seed, but the environment has to be where the seed can grow. And so I wanted to study women in depression because I believe that the household, the environment, is the beginning for everything for a child. And in order to do that, the head of household, the woman of the house, has to be happy, or at least understands that happiness is not always, and be able to create these coping mechanisms where they get past it, to create an environment and resilience, not only for herself, but for her children. And so that was the biggest part of the study for me, is that if a woman is going through depression because of financial situations, or they feel like they need to be away from the home because they have so many financial burdens, I wanted to figure that out. I wanted to figure out if that's true. And it was. If you have financial insecurities, your depression level, according to this data set, is higher. Okay, so once we know that, then we can start developing these coping mechanisms, or just clearly show that it's just subjective. You're as happy as you want to be. Now, if your lights are being turned off, I understand that completely. But if you've got everything to live, you need to be happy with your environment. And so, also from a husband's perspective, or a brother's perspective, or an uncle's perspective, I want to be that social support. And the only way to understand that is to kind of figure out what they're going through. And that's the study of depression for women, for me. Also, even as a child growing up, I need to figure out why my mother was this way or that way. And so I believe that this study could help all aspects of depression, from being a woman to being a husband of a woman, or being a significant other of a woman. These things that we can better understand and help us get to the next level. And all of us can create a positive environment for this next generation. Thank you again for your time. Thank you for your time and attention. I'd now be happy to answer any questions that you may have about my research or any of the findings discussed. Feel free to ask me about any aspects of the study, or share your thoughts on the implications of the results. Thank you.